Welcome back to our conversations with women in wealth tech.
This is hard. It's, certainly at Cetera, we have 13,000 advisors. So to have some kind of consistent experience, now they're broken out into divisions that make sense for the types of clients that they serve, whether it's tax or banking or independent BD. But it is difficult because that resistance becomes a real sticking point. Sometimes I think the advisors somehow feel like the firm doesn't have their best interest in mind. And that has absolutely never been the case. And in any situation I've ever been in my 30 plus years in the industry, the company, you're on the same side of the equation. You want them to succeed. And by choosing and selecting certain app stacks or certain onboarding procedures or operational procedures, you're not like sabotaging them. You are in this to help them have better experience.
I think firms that are looking to bring on additional firms, I think success, at least what we've seen success looks like and what it doesn't look like, is not having one consistent platform. I think it's really hard to drive success if you don't have a consistent platform. Yeah, because you've got folks doing, a million different things, folks doing things in different ways, clients getting a different experience with different advisors. So, we always call it one Beacon. I mean, we have, one technology stack. We have, obviously every advisor has their story and how they tell their story, but we want to make sure that they all are utilizing the same tools across the organization. And then making sure that we measure it. I like to say we're the RIA that started acquiring RIAs. So I started this firm as an RIA. I mean, we were an RIA and grew the firm to, multiple $1 billion in assets. And then we started acquiring firms. So I understand the life cycle that firms are at, but I also understand the importance today that I probably didn't understand 10 years ago, 15 years ago, or even 5 years ago, the importance of being able to measure everything. So being able to help advisors with a roadmap to success. So what does that look like with your office? How do we expand EBITDA margins? How do we expand growth? How do we expand efficiencies? Making sure that we've got the data that backs up the resources that we're giving them to help, achieve certain things within the business, because it isn't one size fits all necessarily. Some particular office may be really good at one thing, another office may be good at something else, but how do we marry the two together and let them benefit from one another?
I think that's a really great point. And it comes back to measuring your inorganic growth, targets. When you're a new company, frequently you can have, 15%, 20%, growth because you are new and you're building off a very small base. Whereas more mature companies will settle into 5 to 8% is really, really good for those types of companies. Excellent is 10% plus, but it's a tricky thing because I think you look at across the board and it's very important to know the life stage of your company and the maturity of your company and your base, and figure out where your peer group is to kind of measure yourself versus just kind of the industry.
I think the other thing is it's putting the importance on it internally. And that sounds a little silly, but when you're dealing with larger organizations, I always joke, all of us are recruiters, right? I may not have a recruiter title, I may not be business development, but every single person in our organization is a recruiter. We're all working to help bring that business on and to help grow the organization. And I think it's those KPIs, it's understanding where the goals are, reporting on them. It's getting everyone on the same page so that we're all pushing toward that same goal. When I've seen organizations start to struggle, it's because they've lost sight of the goal. And when you lose sight, it's really easy to get distracted with all of the other things that make up our day-to-day, just like financial professionals that often aren't growing. It's because they're bogged down in other minutia as a part of their business in the day-to-day. So it's really keeping your eye on the prize.